For decades, people have claimed to hear voices from beyond the grave. These voices are often faint, distorted, and sometimes just whispers or fragments of words. They've been recorded on tape, radios, and now digital devices. But what are these electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs? Are they truly messages from the dead, or are they something else entirely? Tricks of the mind, the machines that we use, or a mixture of both? Today this is what I want to explore. So grab a drink, I've got tea, maybe go get a snack, consider liking the video, consider subscribing, and let's get into it. The fascination with EVP is both historical and cultural. Early enthusiasts believed that these recordings were undeniable evidence of life after death, but mainstream science has largely disagreed. Today, we're going to look at the history, the claims, the science, and the skepticism behind EVP, so you can decide for yourself what these mysterious voices really are. EVPs first came to public attention around the 1950s, 1960s. European researchers like Konstantin Raudive and Friedrich Jürgensen began claiming that they could capture voices of the dead on tape recorders. I will say, if I'm butchering any of these foreign names, I'm sorry. I normally don't even attempt to say them, but for this I kind of have to. Jürgensen, a Swedish painter and film producer, reportedly discovered ghostly voices while recording bird songs and noticing fragments of speech in his recordings that he could not explain. Raudive, a Latvian psychologist, expanded this work by systematically recording countless hours of audio, claiming to capture hundreds of voices from the afterlife. These early experiments were done with analog tape recorders in ordinary rooms. The recordings were often low quality and sometimes barely intelligible, but people claimed to hear words, phrases, and even names. The phenomenon captured public attention, leading to numerous books, radio shows, and eventually a small but dedicated field of EVP researchers. The early history of EVP shows how cultural expectations shaped interpretation. The voices people heard often reflected their own beliefs and anxieties. Some were religious, others simply conversational, but they were always interpreted as meaningful by those who recorded them. So what do EVPs actually sound like? Some are barely audible whispers, others are short, clear words or phrases. Some claim to record full sentences or even coherent conversations. Many recordings are so distorted that listeners must interpret the sounds, often filling in gaps with expectation or imagination. Believers argue that these voices are spirits attempting to communicate. They point to patterns in the recordings, the occasional mention of names or words that seem to answer questions posed during the recording sessions. Some of the more dramatic recordings have been shared in podcasts and documentaries, sometimes with high emotional impact, even if the technical quality is poor. However, the subjective nature of interpreting EVP means that what one person hears as a clear message, another might dismiss it as static or background noise. This is why any serious discussion of EVP must include skepticism, as well as technical and psychological explanations. From a scientific standpoint, EVPs are highly problematic. In 2021, Imant Sporis published a study titled Failure to Replicate Electronic Voice Phenomenon, which concluded that controlled attempts to produce EVPs rarely succeeded. When suggestion, expectation, and selective attention are minimized, the voices largely disappear. Skeptical Inquirer has long investigated EVP claims, analysing both the methods and the supposed evidence. They note that most EVP recordings can be explained by a combination of electrical interference, radio signals, environmental noise, and human expectation. Modern experiments, while attempting to isolate these factors, have shown how difficult it is to produce any repeatable, verifiable EVP under controlled conditions. Even experiments claiming to produce EVPs in labs often rely on interpretation by humans, which introduces bias In other words, there is no widely accepted scientific evidence that EVPs are actual messages from spirits. Human perception is a tricky thing. One of the most convincing explanations for EVPs comes from psychology. Studies have shown that expectation, suggestion, and sensory sensitivity can make people hear voices in random sounds. This is called auditory pareidolia, the tendency to perceive familiar patterns such as voices in random noise. A 2022 study published in PLOS One found that people who report paranormal experiences often have heightened sensory processing sensitivity, which is not exclusive to, but can often show up in certain neurodiverse conditions, especially if you have like heightened sensitivity and struggle with sensory processing because it's heightened. It also shows up a lot in PTSD, CPTSD, and other trauma-based conditions like that, which is something that I have talked about frequently over on this channel because I'm very I'm not certified in anything, but I have lived a lot and I have also learned a lot and I have done a lot of therapy, so I am very trauma informed as a person. But this makes them more likely to interpret ambiguous stimuli like random sounds as meaningful voices. Similarly, a 2015 study on auditory pareidolia demonstrated that the context in which people hear a sound, such as being told it's a spirit voice, dramatically affects what they perceive. Even hearing test experiments, like Michael J. Baker's 2015 study, show that humans are unreliable when decoding speech from poor audio quality. What one person interprets as a clear word, another might hear as nonsense. Expectation plays a major role in interpretation, and combined with low quality recording, it's easy to see how EVPs could be mistakenly taken as messages from the dead. EVP recordings are also susceptible to a variety of technical artifacts. Tape recorders, microphones, and modern digital devices can pick up stray radio signals, electromagnetic interference, or mechanical noise. Even normal background sounds can sometimes resemble voices when amplified or slowed down. ASSAP, a UK-based paranormal research group, explains that many so-called EVPs are actually radio bleed, tape hiss, or artifacts from digital compression. Misinterpretation is made more likely by the listener's expectation. If you're told you're listening for a ghost, your brain will interpret ambiguous sounds as speech. Understanding these technical limitations is crucial. Without careful control of equipment and environment, it's almost impossible to claim a recording as genuine EVP. One of the most infamous tools in the ghost hunting world is the Panasonic RR-60, and I bet a lot of you just let out a groan of like, why? Because same. Introduced in the late 1990s as a simple digital voice recorder, it quickly became known among paranormal investigators as the holy grail of EVP recording. Compact and featuring voice activation mode, it was marketed as ideal for capturing faint spirit whispers in silent environments. But the RR-60 had some serious technical issues. It was recalled by Panasonic because it did not function correctly. Its microphone is extremely sensitive. Hello, come to see me. Yeah, okay, cool girl. Can I keep reading? Oh, Kit says thank you. Good girl. Its microphone is extremely sensitive. So sensitive, in fact, that it can pick up the sounds of its own internal mechanisms. Combined with a low sampling rate and problematic voice activation system, this meant silence, background noise, or even internal clicks could be amplified and interpreted as voices. Add to that internal glitches and electromagnetic interference, and it's easy to see why some recordings seem eerily convincing. As the Centre for Inquiry notes, much of the RR-60's legendary status comes not from its ability to capture genuine EVPs, but from its tendency to turn ordinary noise into apparently meaningful sounds. Even enthusiasts who swear by it must treat recordings with extreme caution. In plain terms, the DR60... You're not going to jump. Hurry. Hurry. Oh my god. You did it? Girl. Hello, baby. Is there a cat on the computer? Is that you? Is that you? In plain terms, the DR60 doesn't prove ghosts. It demonstrates how sensitive equipment, environmental noise, and human pattern seeking can combine to create spooky illusions. Without independent verification, such as video corroboration or comparison with another device, any DR60 EVP should be considered highly unreliable. Even today, a few groups continue to experiment with EVP under more controlled conditions, associating transcommunication, attempting to capture anomalous voices in acoustically isolated environments. They also performed instrumental analysis of recordings, noting phonic features and formants they claimed differ from normal human speech. Similarly, the Centre for Paranormal Research and Investigation attempted to correlate perceived EVP events and environmental factors such as electromagnetic fields, humidity, and temperature. While results are intriguing to believers, these studies have not convinced mainstream scientists. There are still no independently verified, repeatable EVP results that demonstrate a paranormal origin. The value of these modern studies are not in providing proof, but in showing that researchers continue to explore the phenomenon, combining technical, environmental, and psychological factors. Electronic voice phenomenon sits at the intersection of history, psychology, and technology. Many recordings that seem supernatural can be explained by equipment artifacts, environmental noise, or human perception. But the desire to communicate with the beyond and the eerie quality of these recordings has a cultural and paranormal fascination. Whether or not any voices are truly from spirits remains unproven, yet EVP continues to captivate both believers and skeptics alike. It reminds us that while science provides explanations, the human imagination and longing for connection can shape the way we hear the world around us. So that's it. That's the history of EVP. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, consider liking the video and consider subscribing, and maybe consider watching another video. If you want more para for whatever reason, this is the other stuff that I do. And I guess the main question is, what do you think about EVP? I would love to know what you think down in the comments. And I don't think I have much to ramble about today, so I think I'm just going to do the outro. With that, I think I'm going to leave you to the rest of your day. I hope it's a good one, and I will see you next time. Bye! Paranormal Simulations.